This episode of Muddy River Gems is brought to you by Dot Foods.
I think what it comes down to is the culture and the people.
Our culture here at Dot is like no other. I've never experienced anything like what I've lived with for the last 12 years.
Dot is very diverse.
It is truly a family-owned business, but it is a family inside and out.
You always feel like you matter and you play a big hand in the pot.
There's so many opportunities to make a difference at Dot and really contribute to the success of the organization.
A historic farmstead in Adams County has become a very popular event venue while maintaining its historic significance. Muddy River Gems, brought to you by Dot Foods, is next. Jeff Rashi, you've lived on this property, you and your wife have lived on this property for several years. It's a very old farm.
Yes, it is.
In fact, the barn we're going to see is one of the oldest barns in Adams County, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, 111 years old.
And the house was probably built well before that. I would imagine this is the oldest building.
I think so. And the barn next to it was, we think that's 1800 something. We don't know exactly because the 1912 barn was built as the new one. And so for them, that was their new one. So
it's called Windsong Acres.
Windsong Acres.
And it's an art center.
Yes.
It's an event center. It has lately become very popular with weddings, and we're going to see why, because these old buildings that surround the house here, it works out really well for a variety of events, doesn't it?
Yeah, we have weddings, showers. Just in the last week, we've had a nursing home brought over residents. We had a youth group. There was some of them as young as 5 years old, and they came and did some clay. So we just have all sorts of groups come. Birthday parties, school reunions, all kinds of things, yeah.
And you're a potter yourself, so you have classes and group activities out here for that.
I became a potter about 5 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was a minister for my whole career before that, and then anyway, so now I sit around and don't talk and throw things, and people like me better when I'm not talking.
Throwing pots, keep that man quiet. Give him a wheel, right?
Yeah.
Let's walk back this way and look at some of these buildings. We mentioned this one. This is the wedding center right over here, I think,
yes.
or what? I'm not sure if you call
we
it
just
that,
call it the wedding barn. It was built about 5 years ago, just from a slab of concrete, but it includes all sorts of old beams and old lumber, and there's people go in and think it's an old barn, but it has modern amenities, 2 bathrooms, a kitchenette, and so it's just a good place for a reception.
Well, and you need that because these old barns that we're going to see, they don't really cater that well to that kind of activity. I mean, you can make it, you can stretch it into that, but it's better to have, if you want the modern amenities, and people do.
Sure.
Yeah,
yes.
That's what that's for. And we'll tour that too.
Okay.
As we're walking back toward it, this is the big barn, and this was the second barn, right? Not the oldest, but this is the second barn.
This is the second one.
And we're going to stop here and look at it because it is so tall and beautiful. I don't think people realize how big these buildings were.
Yeah, that's way up there, and we built that cupola, but we built it on the ground. We hired roofers to do the roofing.
But you built the cupola.
We built the cupola.
Did you have pictures of the old cupola, the original cupola?
There was a sort of a sister barn that was like it, that was in Camp Point. It's burned, unfortunately, but I had a chance to study how they framed up a cupola. And the old beams were still in it, and they were 7 feet apart, so we knew that. And we had a photograph of the original cupola, but it had long since been torn off. And that vent sitting there that says Windsong Acres, that was old and rusty, and that was what was on top of it when we bought the barn.
Oh, okay.
And so we when we saw the picture of how it used to be, my wife and I looked at each other and said, "Oh my gosh, you know, we have to
got to
restore
replace that.
We got to fix
So
that."
you built it on the ground.
Built it on the ground.
And had a company that had a boom or something to get it
Yeah.
up there and put it in place.
Yep, gun construction in Camp Point. And the Mennonites it was really fun because the Mennonites were roofing and they were up there singing in German. And of course, I was a minister. We'd talk theology, you know, at lunch breaks, you know. And so I ended up, we asked if we could go visit their church the last weekend that they were here working on the roof, and we did that. And so when gun construction came to do that, there must have been 200 women and children formed this giant circle around when Gunn lifted that up and put it up there, because they'd been
big celebration.
They'd been hearing of it. Shelley made treats for all the Mennonites that came. It was just we had a wonderful time.
Now, what about were the windows always in this barn, or did you add those? Were always there.
There were a lot of them broken or shot out when we bought it. We caulked all those. There's 840 individual.
And you would
panes of
know
glass.
because you caulked every one, right?
Yeah, we did.
Let's go this way.
We did, yeah.
Now you call this, or the farmers called this, the scale house, but it was originally the old barn.
That's right. This was a small barn, you know, on the property. We think they kept horses and maybe some, maybe a carriage or something in it. I'm not sure, but it just had a little concrete.
A black cat just crossed our path.
Yeah, that cat has adopted us. Named Midnight.
What a time to have a black cat.
And then we have a white cat that adopted us too, and it's named Sunshine.
Well, they have a great place to live. So this was a scale house would have been a place where a farmer would have taken their wagon over and weighed the commodity in it.
But that was retrofitted afterward. We think that was put in. We think this was earlier mid 1800s when it was originally built. Then they built that big barn in 1912, and then in 1927 is when they added the scale, and they had to retrofit this barn for that. And then when we came along, we really dolled it up, and it didn't have any windows when we did. So
it's very attractive, and the windows kind of match those over there, so it looks really. And there's stained glass and the weather vane at the top. It's all. And you and Shelley did this.
We did
too.
this.
You're pretty amazing.
It's all her vision. You know, she's an artist, and so.
And you're a grunt, right?
Well,
so you get in there and do the work.
I'm the assistant. So.
Okay, now you also built this gazebo over here as well.
Yeah.
Which has some nice artistic touches from Shelley as well. But again, you did most of the handiwork, huh?
Yeah, we looked around and took notes and measurements of gazebos all over. We used to go to Wisconsin on our vacations every year, and while we were up there, every time we'd see a gazebo, we'd stop and take pictures and see how they did it. And we looked at kits, and they were all more expensive than we could afford. Yeah. And we thought, well, we could buy the lumber and build it. And so we did. Wow. And there were certain aspects of it that were a challenge. I mean, I had a contractor tell me that it was all 22.5-degree angles to make it an 8-sided one. So I could do that. I had a chop saw. But things like getting these roofs and how you make the rafters to make it so it's centered when you get up there, those were some challenges I lost some sleep over. But Shelley did this
she
mosaic.
Put the tile down?
Yeah, she did mosaics, and then there's a stained glass window in it that's really a
there sure is. It's
beautiful
lovely.
one. And we've had lots of weddings in front. This will hold about 200 chairs out in front with a nice aisle going out. And
then you can have the reception over at the hall.
Yep,
that's
exactly.
perfect.
Yep.
Now, you have I'm counting 3 ponds here. There may be more. I may be missing some.
Well,
but you built and hauled the rock for this as well.
Yeah. It's they're rubber liner ponds, and behind the rubber liner is concrete block that's just stacked in, and then concrete down in the holes to keep them so it keeps the dirt from collapsing. And
now each one of these has its own water source. Is that or does it all just drain one to the next?
They're all independent, and they all are recirculating. And all the little lean-tos that we built on the house are where the water goes back and forth underground in pipes. So the waterfalls are just ornamental. The real cleaning is done underwater.
It's beautiful. Yeah. And you're a koi guy, I can tell, because you got all different sizes of goldfish and koi, and some of them are big.
Yeah, some are big. I think some we have that are probably close to 15 or 20 years old, I would say. And because we've had some since the very beginning. And but this pond is goldfish and water lilies. So there's a couple of lilies there just that if we got enough sunlight, they might still open up, but we're getting near the end of their season. But Shelley wanted one pond where we could have water lilies, and koi will kill those. So, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's do. Let's
Yeah.
go first, since the scale house, or the old barn, is the oldest building here,
Yeah.
other than the house. Let's go in there first, and we'll walk through these buildings, okay?
That sounds great to me. All right.
Now that's the way an old barn door should sound. There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Look, I had never been to an antique store when we got married, and she taught me some culture, I guess, that, you know, so we started going to antique stores all the time and salvage places and collecting old doors and anything like that, newel posts, and I didn't know why we were getting them, but we got them. And anyway, things like this, I mean, we built this whole doorway. I mean, those are upside down plinth blocks up there. And I suppose, anyway, she did all the glass, and but then this was an old door, and we etched this to say Shelley's Art.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And this is an artist studio. She built this. You wanted this to be her art studio.
Yeah.
And that's a palette of paint up there. It looks like it looks
Yeah.
like a painter's palette, doesn't it? That's beautiful.
She designed all that. And just really did some amazing things.
Okay, so
with that.
as a barn, when this was a barn, before it was the
Scale house.
scale house, thank you.
Yeah.
Those were grain bins. You had 3 grain bins, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm guessing that horses were on this side. It's about the right dimension for those to have been horse stalls, or at least one. And then, and like I said, so this side I think were grain bins. And so it was a pretty small barn. They built the new big one, and then a few years later, then I think they added this scale, and they had to cut the main beam of the barn.
Here, I'm going to show that over here.
Yeah.
This was a main beam coming right down the middle, right?
Yep, right to there.
Okay, and they cut it there so that they could open the back door of
There's
this.
a back door of this that opens, and so this is a different kind of wood. So this was added later, and there just wasn't enough room in the middle for the scale plus the housing, and so I don't know if I can find B and Beulah's signature here or not. Let me try real quick. It's, if you can see it right there. I don't know if you can focus on that. 1929. B. Deku, 126 pounds, age 21.
That's one of the women, huh? Yeah.
And then Beulah Deku, her mom, I think, age 55, 120 pounds. So that's the basis of why we think it was built in 1929.
And this is, okay, now here, and for those who don't know what how a scale house would work, this is the scale, and you can see it's moving now.
Yes.
A cart would drive over this full of wheat or something, and it'd be weighed, and then it would drive out those doors,
side. Yes.
right?
Yep.
It would be weighed on that scale.
Yeah,
right
there was
there.
a little concrete ramp that was poured and all that. This scale works just like a doctor's scale, just kind of goes up and down with the weights, and you put weight on or off and subtract, and that's why you can see there's subtraction computations all over the place on it, and different people signing it, and so the farm's been through, this part of it at least has been through a few different hands and people living here.
Yeah.
They eventually, the farmers that still farm the rest of the 80 sold off, I call it the inconvenient 3 acres, with the buildings.
That's what you had.
That's what we have, yeah. And it went through several hands, and then we bought it in 2002, and we've had it for 20 years.
Well, you have done so much with it. Now on this side, okay, this would have been where the horses, the barn where the horses lived. Now, there was not a loft here. You built the stairway.
Yes.
And the loft that's up above.
Yep.
And I don't know what that's used for, but I imagine it's real pleasant up there. You got windows to look out.
Yeah, windows look out, and there's a little deck off the back. And we built it just for extra space in here because it was kind of small. And again, we weren't sure where Shelley would set up all her art stuff, and that was the purpose.
Well, speaking of that, let's go out there because this is where she ended up setting up her art stuff.
Yeah, this room.
This would have been the back door that you would drive.
This was the back sliding door,
out.
and then we added this on just to have a smaller room to heat and cool on a 8-hour a day basis.
Again, I know one of her mosaics.
Yeah, she did that mosaic as well, and there's these barn beams came from Janice Holmes' chicken coop we helped take down. We helped disassemble all sorts of places. There's a story behind all of the floorboards are from the Lewis barn. When they tore it down, they let us have some of the siding, so we made the floor out of that.
Now, is that the one that's at the fairgrounds? Is
It's
that the Lewis
same,
barn?
Same family, but it's a barn that's no longer there, of course.
Okay. Yeah.
The other direction, yeah. And anyway, so a lot of her art's on the walls. This is where she sat and worked. And nowadays, brides or grooms get ready in this space, and we have showers, baby and bridal showers in this building.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we've had lots of fun here, and we worked on this for 4 years when we didn't live on the property. You know, as a Methodist minister, we had a parsonage. We always had to ask the trustees if we were going to add, paint a wall or something. Well, this was our first place that we had. Well, we had tenants living in the house, so these barns were the first thing we could work on and not ask permission about what color to paint. So I think we went a little crazy. We got the barn done in a year, and then this one we just worked on. We piddled with. I said it was like a treehouse project that got out of hand. For 4 years we just kept adding on and anyway, so it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Really
We
was.
still have to see the big old barn.
Sure, okay.
And we have to see the pot, where the pottery is made, and then we have to see the wedding venue. So we
I
got
know,
a lot
well,
to do.
We're going to have to serve you lunch.
Yep, that's okay.
That'd be fine with me.
Jeff, I guess this was quite a spectacle back in the day, 1912, because it may have been the first barn in Adams County with a concrete floor.
That's what I was told by the nephew of the fellow the people that built it. So he said he remembers that people came on their horse and buggy just to see the floor, the concrete floor.
Yeah. Well, think if you were a farmer and you were dealing with that mud all the time.
Yeah.
What a blessing that would be to be able to get out of that.
Yeah, that's right. And there's even tiles in the floor where they had the horses. I guess they go way out to the ditches and stuff. So it was really a state-of-the-art thing when they built it. Yeah.
This is of course there would have been. I imagine there would have been horses in these stalls on this side over here.
I think so. Then this was a granary here, those little doors on the top, and so this was another big grain bin, bigger than they had in the other barn. You always build a bigger one,
We talked about that cupola that you and Shelley rebuilt. You built it outside and then you hoisted it up there, and if you look straight up here, you can see it.
Yeah.
Windows and all.
Yeah, we had to get the windows that we had trouble finding 16 matching windows that resembled the ones in the picture and we ended up finding them in Bloomington, Illinois. We went clear to Bloomington to get 16 matching sashes.
Wow.
And we built that whole cupola and the fish scale shingles that were evident in the old photograph. No one had them around except vinyl ones, and the vinyl ones were too big because it's just a short space. So I ended up using a coffee can and old cedar siding that was sloped, and we had cut every one of those fish scales out by hand.
Oh my God.
When we did it. So
You're
that was in the first year, or crazy. I don't know.
Patient and crazy at the same time. People can't help but notice the chandelier and these party lights here. When you were first getting in the wedding business, this was your wedding venue right here.
Right, yeah. Well, we found people wanting to get married in front of the other building or in front of the gazebo, but there wasn't an indoor option.
Yeah.
So sometimes they pitched tents, but we thought this is a big barn, maybe we could use it. So we got the chandeliers and cleaned it all up.
Yeah.
And then the first wedding we had here, the bride was from the city, and I guess she didn't realize that other guests that are uninvited come, such as barn swallows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and anyway, and the barn swallows flew over the chairs, and next thing
they
you know,
did what they do.
They did what they do.
And she didn't care for that very
and
much.
do's the key word, probably. Anyway, and so she sort of freaked out about that, and so the wedding ended up outside. And that's when I thought, unless we, to really plug this up to outside animals, it would have to almost, I felt like, do violence to the historic nature of it. So eventually planted the seeds for the other wedding barn.
There you go.
Yeah.
That makes sense. One other thing before we leave here, I noticed that there's some steel cables and bars up at the top between the original beams. Was that just to shore it up?
No, the roof actually sagged when we bought it, and it just had an old metal vent on it. And so a friend of ours, Buddy Renner, made those for us so that we could actually, and plates at the ends with the big nuts, so we could pull those back together and make the rafters come back up. So we'd rotate the nuts a few times from scaffolding in the loft, and then we'd run outside and look and see if it was straight, and just kept doing that over about a week or so.
Yeah.
And got the roof straight again, and then those support it. And then of course the cupola is very heavy.
Yeah.
And that was probably one reason why it leaked, is over the years it spread it out and then started leaking water and rotted,
So if you hadn't done that, this roof may have fallen in by now.
I would be,
Especially
it'd be
with that
questionable.
heavy cupola
Yeah,
on
it's
it.
good. It's heavy.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to modern times now, and we're going to see
Okay.
what you built for your wedding venue.
Alrighty.
We'll be back with more from Windsong Acres on Muddy River Gems, brought to you by Dot Food.
From our trucks to their lunch trays, to your local hospital, to your favorite pub, and to your kitchen table. For more than 60 years, Dot Foods and Dot Transportation have been stocking the shelves of your hometown. Sure, we've grown a lot, but at our core, we're still small-town, family-run businesses that care about our communities and the people who keep us running. Join the Dot family today and be part of something bigger.
Why work at Dot?
You could list out individual qualities forever.
There's a lot of opportunities. They take care of the employees, they take care of the community.
So our pay, our benefits, it's competitive. Time off, tons of flexibility.
They're willing to work with you to help you advance.
Okay, now we're out of the historical part of the property now. You know, this
Yes.
looks old because it matches your old barn and
Yes.
everything, but this is about 5 years old.
Yeah, this is only about 5 years old.
Yeah,
But
okay.
a lot of people come and they look in there and they think it was an old barn. So we found someone had old barn beams in Waverly, Illinois, and they brought them over on a truck, and we used those to help build it. So
Terrific.
let's take a look.
Show
Yeah.
us in.
Yeah, here we go.
Okay, I'm going to
we
hold
go.
this for
Okay,
our
thank you.
photographer to
Thank
get
you.
through. Good. Okay.
We use old barn wood and trim, you know, that and again, old doors. Yeah.
You can find them, can't you? You can
Yeah,
find anything.
You really can, and old lamps
No,
and
you,
that kind of
not
thing.
me.
Oh well,
You can find anything.
Well, Shelley's the one. She can spot an antique store a mile away.
I'll bet you when you travel,
Yeah.
you don't go far between
No,
stops.
you're right.
She's always stopping somewhere along the way.
we do.
But as
Yeah.
you look around, you see a lot
Yeah.
of stained glass again, and I'm going
Yeah.
to think that did Shelley make these
She
stained glass?
she did
pieces?
all of it except the big one was actually that was an antique one. We just fell in love with the colors and decided to buy that one for that spot. But yeah, all the rest in here, either she did or I did, and we do teach classes in that stained glass and pottery both. So. So it's one thing I learned because I married her is eventually how to do stained glass. Obviously I talk a lot more than she does, so it's natural to teach it. Yeah. This building is the one we call the wedding barn.
Oh, okay.
It is used for indoor options for weddings and also for lots of other events. We have receptions here. Right in this area underneath these lights, a lot of times will be the dance floor, but there's lots of options. Sometimes couples will make another area of the dance floor and let people eat under here. So we have up to 200 people in this building, including in the loft upstairs, and sometimes brides will get dressed and ready up there in the loft. And if they could also use the scale house, but that's an option for them. And we have a kitchenette in this building over here.
Oh, okay.
The kitchenette is, let me flip on the lights here for that one. But we have actually 2 refrigerators, a microwave, and a sink. We have city water. And so this is a real handy place to serve drinks out of. If someone has a bartender, a lot of times they'll put a bar across there and their bartender will serve drinks. And we have 2 restrooms in this building. Also, this part back here, is, we just call it the addition to it. It will hold quite a few people. And it's an area that sometimes people, especially smaller weddings, they'll have their wedding facing this way. And the stained glass window up there with a couple hearts in it, when we were making that, my wife and I were discussing what colors to make the hearts, and we just liked those 2 colors, as it turns out, of glass that we had on hand. Anyway, the very first wedding we had after it turned out it was a Cardinal fan marrying a Cub fan, and Dad came in here and said, hey, it looks like Cardinal and Cub hearts. So anyway, I guess that's our Cardinal and Cub heart window up there. But we've had lots of weddings right in here. We were really lucky to come across this, I'm not sure what you'd actually call it. It's fretwork, I guess.
Oh, okay.
It was at an antique store, and it was so big we actually had to cut it in half to get it in our car at home at the time, but we got it all pieced back together. And there were other little decorative touches that we salvaged off of porches of houses. People knew we were interested in old things and building, and so lots of times before they'd tear down a house, they'd call and let us know we could come get some things. So that's where a lot of those came from, and I just think it kind of dolls it up a little bit and looks nice. Mm-hmm. We were using old lanterns on the walls, and all the stained glass in the building we did, except for the one window that's was an antique that we purchased, but all the rest of these Shelley and I made. About a year and a half ago, we had a art show to honor Shelley's career, and we went down in our basement, and I was looking through old boxes of art we had down there, and I thought I knew everything that was there, but there was one box that had been in her parents' basement until they passed away, and then evidently we moved it to our basement, and it had 53 watercolor paintings in it, and I had never seen them before. We've been married 41 years, and I'd never seen all these watercolors she did. And I guess before we were married, she taught watercolor. So we have some of them framed and up around here, but it was just so neat to come across that hidden treasure of all these. So right now, a lot of the watercolors are hanging here in the big building just for us to enjoy and other people to see too. So it's really always something to discover.
Okay, leaving the wedding event area. Now this is used for two things. This room here, we see people working on pottery here. Mm-hmm. This is where your caterer would set up and sort of stage the event.
Yes,
okay.
for a wedding, for a reception.
Okay.
And then also during the week, then we flip it back here to a pottery studio. So you'll notice all the pottery's on rolling carts. So those all roll out and go into the storage room on the side. And
man, but that's really hard. That's a lot of work.
It's a lot, and especially as we've gotten more and more weddings. Now there's a wedding at least every other weekend. So
we're just moving all the time.
All the time, and so that's why we are building a new building in the back. Mm-hmm. We just really outgrew the pottery area and also the wedding area at the same time. So. So, yep, new building time.
So what's this young lady doing over here? That's a beautiful looking fountain, by the way.
Yeah, so that's a fountain. Water's. So you want to show them where water will come out. So that's Krista. She's one of our staff.
Okay, and it'll drop off that lip.
Yeah, it'll
down
drop off
into
the
first, and then
and
it'll
go
twirl
around.
Okay.
Yeah, water goes around, and then so that's one of the styles of fountains we have. And then we have also small desk fountains.
She's painting it in order. That'll be put in the kiln again.
Yes. So that's glaze. So it won't even look. It won't look like that same color.
You never know what color you're going to get, do you?
I know. Glaze changes so much. The deepest blue, when you put it on, it's actually pink. In fact, is that what you're doing now? That's cobalt.
Okay.
So that will turn out to be a very deep blue, about like something about
that would
that.
be nice.
She's going to grab one here. So,
okay.
So there's the style we're after there.
So the color she's putting on the new fountain is going to come out of the kiln looking like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
2,200 degrees later. So
and what's the time frame on that? Would that take a day?
Yeah, it takes about 8 hours to heat up to 2,200 degrees, and then it takes about another full 24 hours to cool back off. And then we can pull it out and put a new load in. And so we try to keep the kiln running almost around the clock, especially as we approach a show. We have a big show in December, the first weekend, and we'd have 2 a year, so that's our Christmas show. So we'll fill this whole building with our pottery, and then we'll have other vendors that do other things in the scale house. We'll have music and food and treats, of course, And so it's just, we look forward to it. It'll be fun. So we're just getting ready for that. And you want to see what you're working on, Sally?
Let's see what
Sally's another one of our.
Okay, now that's also a glaze. Is that a glaze? Okay. Do we have any idea what that's going to look like when it comes out?
Yeah, that's a fire brick. So that's a real deep red.
That one.
Yeah, there you go, like that one over there.
Okay.
And so she's just working on just a little.
Nice.
That one's not a mug, I don't think. Just a kind of a little, just a little vase or cup.
Let's go over here where your wheels are.
Okay.
Because you have this is big enough that you can accommodate groups.
Yes,
and they can come and work together. I guess that's
Right.
what you have
Well,
this for. Huh?
when we do pottery lessons on the wheels, we usually just sit around here, and I usually limit it to 3 additional students besides myself, and we sit right here. The new building will have more capacity, and then we also can take 12 students or so at a time for either stained glass or pottery, and we put them at long tables and setup stations. Because in pottery, they can also do slab or coil building. It doesn't have to be on the wheel, and so they make things that way. And we just had a nursing home group, 10 residents come, and they made coil constructions. They just made like little clay snakes, you know, put them round and round and round, and they got little balls. And I told them this was the project. They just put the balls here and there, and then the snakes go up and down the balls, and with the balls you make a pattern as you go up, you know. And they had a great time, you know. And so, anyway, so we'll all these pieces here, they're in the same process. These were thrown last night, so they're still soft. You can see. And later today, when this gets hard enough that I can touch it without a fingerprint, we'll trim them, and then we'll put a handle on a lot of these, and they'll become a mug. They'll shrink some. They're pretty big. And then after they go through the first time, they'll be turned into ceramic, and then after that, they'll put glaze on, and it goes in the second time. So people wonder, why does a mug cost $25? And the answer is it's so hard to put the handle on while it's spinning around so fast. No, not really. Not really. There is a lot of work behind the scenes, actually, for all pottery. It's but we have fun with it, and I'm really grateful. We have several people that help out, and they're all good helpers.
Well, the day's coming pretty soon when you're not going to be able. This can remain a caterer's area, and you'll have all this stuff, and you won't have to have them on wheels. You can actually have
neat.
Permanent shelving over there. So let's just go take a look at that building. Yeah, show us.
So,
well, this will be handy because you can walk right out of the old building.
Out of the old building
and through what you could even use a little breezeway here.
A little breezeway, and then
into
this part,
to the new pottery building.
So,
and it's a construction site, so it's got a lot. It has a ways to go. What will this area be used for?
This will be the new kiln room, so much bigger, and it's going to be for stained glass also. So we'll have these cubby holes for stained glass, a lot more storage for it, and the soldering area here for stained glass with windows we can open for better ventilation, but mostly just for the kilns, and also the carts we can store the ones we're not using in here as well. And then the big room in here is the main area.
This would be where your wheels are, and
the wheels, and we have there'll be 2 big 16-foot tables for classes, and also for doing the kind of work they're doing right now. We can spread out the pottery and.
Well, speaking of pottery, let's go over here and take a look, because you got a whole table full.
Yeah, there's a whole table of stuff. We just ran out of carts to put it all on, and so we're trying to accumulate some for the show. There's all sorts of things. There's this is kind of a fun technique. You put sodium silicate on it, and then as you expand it, the sodium silicate dries the outside out, and as you expand it, it cracks like dry ground, and then you can put glaze in the cracks.
Oh, that is neat.
Yeah, it's
and use that's sort of similar to this, and all these.
It is.
These textured areas.
Several of them are like that. This has copper then put on it right after that, and copper sort of turns green. So this is kind of raw, and just anyway, you can do all sorts of different effects.
You can do, but you don't have to glaze each piece. You can trick with it.
Yeah, you can do all sorts of little things like that, and some of it, it will run in the kiln, so you can take advantage of that as it melts and just runs down and looks pretty.
And like you say, you never know what you're going to end up with, do you?
No, I always say it's like whenever you open the kiln, it's like Christmas. You look at these things.
What'd I get?
Yeah. And so anyway, this whole building will be pretty much everywhere there's not windows. There will be shelves on the walls and countertop all around, and it'll be a very functional space. And the nice thing is, even while there's a wedding going on, we can be out here working. If they need something, we're close, but they're not even connected. So, it's just going to be really handy. We're very much looking forward to that. So.
And you're doing a lot of the finish work here yourself. So I don't know how many of you there are, But there must be more than one because there's an awful lot going on.
Yeah.
Here.
Well, this one hired a friend of mine to actually do the framing and the building of it itself. But then after that, it's up to us, to get the drywall on and the all the other aspects of it, trim and so forth. Yeah. But anyway, so this is. It's kind of funny. I feel like all the buildings on the property are sort of driven by the need to have an art studio, and in a way, and it's just been fun as it's gone on for all these years. And my wife Shelley, she has dementia now, and so, but she's been it's been such a love story, I would say, all along the way, because something we've been able to share together, and she's really introduced me to art. Only reason I did pottery is because she wanted to get back to that when she got to where she couldn't do her two-dimensional art. So I went with her to take classes at the Art Center in Quincy while we were having the building built to set up her pottery. And so I learned how to do pottery, and then during the pandemic I had a lot of time to practice, and then I had a lot of stuff to sell. And so therefore it just kind of goes like that. Yeah.
Jeff, thank you.
It's
been a real pleasure.
Well, my pleasure. I thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
This building, Jeff, indefatigable, Jeff Rash, he hopes to have this done for their December holiday, Christmas extravaganza, when people will come from all around the county and beyond to see pottery and other artwork. Hopes to have it finished. I don't know how optimistic I am about that, but good luck to him. And we hope that you have enjoyed this Muddy River Gem brought to you by Dot Foods near Camp Point. Thanks for watching.
This episode of Muddy River Gems was brought to you by Dot Foods.